He was Barack Obama's chief technology officer in his 2012 re-election. And he founded Modest, a startup that was bought by PayPal. That's Harper Reed, and I got you here.
Hello.
Hi, Harper. Harper, so first of all, why you? How did you end up to be the CTO of Barack Obama?
I think there's 2 or 3 reasons. I like to say that it's because I look like a CTO from central casting. Because I think politics is very image-based. And I have to admit that I think that was a big part of it. But also, I had a good background. I've done some tech work, been a CTO before. But third, I was available. I do think that it is really a lot about being in the right place at the right time. Oftentimes opportunities, you never know if they're there because it's not the right place or the right time, and you never know. So I think it was all those things mixed together.
Okay, and it was not the first time that a CTO was hired for a political campaign, you told me, but what was unique was your approach as a CTO for Obama, that you hired people from the tech companies such as Facebook, Google, Twitter. What was the idea behind that?
Well, in 2012, we had a lot of time. And so since we had so much time, we could invent, so to speak. And we weren't really inventing as much as we were building what the campaign needed. In 2008 and many elections before, there just wasn't that much time. And so having the privilege of time, the luxury of time, really helped. And so because of that, they needed someone who could orchestrate the building, not just the collaboration.
And how much courage did you need working for Obama? Because I also heard that at the beginning, someone told you, don't mess it up.
Well, yeah, they didn't quite say don't mess it up, but they said a little more stronger words. But the thing is, it was very scary. I was constantly reminded that we were doing history, like history was happening. But the thing is, I was with such a supportive staff, with such smart people, with some of the smartest people in the world, that it was never, I won't say it wasn't hard, but it was never impossible. And, I think there's a difference.
Do you think you did history?
I would like to think so, but I'm not sure. I wonder what the history will say. Will it say that we, started Facebook messaging in politics? Will it say that we, started advanced targeting in politics, which everyone kind of thinks is a bad idea? Like, I'm not sure what history will say. I'm proud of re-electing Barack Obama and being a part of that movement. I'm very proud of. But I don't know about the other parts. It's there's a lot of questions to be asked.
Meanwhile, there's a lot of controversy, in the use of social media for political campaigns, as we hear, bots spreading fake news, Russian meddling into the U.S. Presidential election, and that was something that you already predicted in 2013.
Yes.
How come? How did you feel that?
In 2013, I had the opportunity to do a TED Talk, and I talked specifically about how I felt, or how fragile I felt the U.S. election process was. And I wasn't necessarily specifically talking about meddling from another party or a country or what have you, state actor. I was actually just talking about how generally it is very fragile. And I think if we look at a lot of our institutions, we might notice that they are very fragile. And they're also relatively anachronistic. They're old-fashioned. In many cases, they're very vulnerable. And so that's my worry. And I don't think it's just elections. I think it's a lot of things that we take for granted. And what we saw in 2016 is that things can change drastically.
So one thing is those institutions being fragile, but then on the other hand, also tech companies having a lot of power, right? Would you say that European regulators are now trying to keep them within their frame?
But GDPR, for instance, I think is great. And it does a bunch of things. I think it makes technology companies thoughtful about the human impact of their technology. I don't know how someone should, I don't have recommendations on how someone should implement, especially if they're a US company, but I do know that they're going to be thoughtful about their users. If that's the side effect, then that's great, because that's what we need. We need more people to be thoughtful about the people that are the users, not just the data, not just the algorithms, but the people.
And you also said that somehow, sometimes we blame the tech for all these faults. Would you say it's the tech faults or the ones that use it, misuse it?
I think every weapon has a welder, like someone that is welding that weapon, but I don't know. I'm not sure I know the answer yet, because I don't want to blame tech, because oftentimes tech is just a tool. You don't blame the person that just holds the tool, or you blame the person who holds the tool, you don't blame the tool. But with that said, I do think that we need to be very careful about tech, meaning we need to think about the unintended consequences of what we're building. You don't just build something, put it into the world, and then when something goes wrong, be like, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be thoughtful about that.
It's our responsibility.
It's our responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility.
Exactly. Total other question. Do you invest in equities?
I have no idea what equities are. I mean, I try and let professionals do the investing.
Okay, because I was just thinking, last couple of days there was a heavy selling in the
boy.
FANG.
Should I make some calls?
Shares, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, they tumbled.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, do you think it's the right time to buy?
I mean, there's wonderful tech companies that I think are very, very good. I think one of the ways, I'm not sure. I'm obviously not a financial advisor or actually have any knowledge in this whatsoever. But I always think about, what are people using? If everyone around you is using some tech company that's public, then that's a pretty good indication that it's working. But then, use your best judgment. I think it's actually a really good time to be thoughtful about Facebook because they're obviously not using their best judgment.
Do you think that will change?
I don't know much about what will change, but I do think lessons are being learned. Part of the problem is I don't think that big tech often thinks of their customers as people. And when you don't think of your customers as people, you don't acknowledge that they have the same feelings that you do, then you don't actually follow, like what doctors follow, do no harm, or the golden rule, like do to others as you would do to yourself or whatever. Like you don't follow those things. And it's very interesting because I think we need to follow those things. We need to be thoughtful about how we approach this because we are the people. And how do we do that? I don't know. I don't think tech thinks about that. And I say that as someone who's not thought about that. Like I say that from experience, not because I judge. I also judge.
So, as you actually suggested, someone that in the future works in tech should also, have these ethical values or study philosophy, as you suggested, right?
I think it's important to be very thoughtful about ethics. We oftentimes don't have an ethicist on staff. It's very important for us to have a data scientist, a programmer, an accountant, all these things, but we don't think about the ethical impact of our work. And I often think that it's okay. Like, we don't have the engineers thinking about accounting. We don't have the engineers thinking about marketing. Maybe they shouldn't necessarily be directly impacted by ethics, but you need someone on staff that's thinking about it. And so I think I would prefer that everyone have a background in ethics. I think that's incredibly important because I want everyone who's programming to be thoughtful in the back of their head. The same way that if you go to college now, everyone in computer science thinks a little bit about marketing. They think a little bit about digital marketing. They think a little bit about all of these things, yet ethics is so far away. So
we're meeting here at the Swiss Innovation Forum. And I was wondering what drives innovation for you? What's needed in order to be innovative? Yeah,
I think innovation is a hard topic because I think innovation oftentimes is fake. We talk about innovation and what we really mean is we mean shiny things.
But what does that mean?
Well, that's the thing. Shiny things don't mean anything. It's completely a fake thing. You think, this is very innovative. And it's just shiny and no one uses it. I think that's the key. Nobody uses it. Innovation should be celebrated for when people use a lot of it, when it becomes repetitive, when everyone is using it. That's when we should be thinking about innovation. When we give someone an award for being innovative, I hope that we give them an award once the market has said they're innovative, because that's innovation, is when you get everyone to use it. And that's much harder. It's very easy to build a shiny thing, a thing that looks good, that appears on a magazine cover. It's very difficult to bring that thing to the market. And I think that's where innovation actually is.
On your website, you also claim that hope is work.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. So it's not just a feeling. What do you mean by that? You have to work to be hopeful? You have to do something?
I think there's many chances to maybe be unhappy, to look at the world and think, this is hopeless, to think there's no chance, that there's nothing that can push us forward. But I don't think that's true. But I think you have to do work to really, really support that. And you have to do work to get others along with you. And you can't just say, I'm hopeful, and that's it, and stop. You have to say, I'm hopeful, and then do work. You have to use hope as maybe the foundations to do the work. But it's easy to just say, I'm hopeful. It's hard to be really, truly hopeful and to use that to power what you're doing. But yeah, it's very difficult.
And at the end of all that work, it's kind of rewarding as well.
Oh yeah, of course. But I think rewarding is a tricky word. Because I think people say rewarding when they actually mean it sucks, but they can't say it. So they say, well, that was very rewarding. And I think it's because they're just scared of saying, it was very hard. That was really, really tricky. It was very difficult.
But why do we do stuff then? To at the end feel good? Or?
Yeah. I think that's why. To feel cool, to feel good, to feel like you are the best, to feel like a hero. I think it's really down to the brass tacks, like the very bottom of the feelings. And we often act and celebrate that it's this big idea that we're something bigger, but no, I think it's really base. I think you have to create the life that is for you. For me, for instance, if I don't want to get up, I just don't get up.
That's a luxury.
Of course it's a luxury, but I spent a lot of time and a lot of work to get there. But what I mean by that is I have figured out what I need to do to support myself and to make sure that, especially if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to inspire others, whether it's through work, colleagues, whatever, that I need to do everything I can to make sure that I am inspiring them. And that means I have to take care of me first.
Great.
Then I can take care of them.
Harper Reed, thank you so much.
Thank you.